Moses was just 15 when it happened. It was the third term of the school year. His father had died 2 years earlier in a motor accident, and since then, nothing had been the same. His mother, Grace, was once a woman of elegance and peace, but now she worked as a school cleaner, mopping classroom floors and washing teachers' toilets just to put food on the table. Life was not just hard, it was bitter. That term, Moses owed 4,200 naira in school fees. It was not a lot for some people, but for them it felt like trying to lift a house with bare hands. Grace had tried everything. She sold 2 of her precious wrappers. She begged her elder brother for help, but he stopped picking her calls. She even asked her former church friends, but most of them only said, "We'll pray for you." And still, the money didn't come. Moses continued going to school, hoping nobody would remember his debt. He believed somehow, by some miracle, things would work out. Then it happened. That Monday morning was brighter than usual, but for Moses, the air felt heavy. As usual, the students gathered on the assembly ground, forming neat lines. The principal, a strict man known as Mr. Benson, stepped forward holding a piece of paper. He cleared his throat and said, "All students who have not completed their fees, step forward now." The whole assembly went silent. A few students shuffled forward nervously. Moses didn't want to move. He prayed the ground would swallow him. But he had no choice. Slowly, with his head down, he walked forward to join the others. Then, from behind, a sharp voice rang out, "Moses again." It was Mrs. Johnson, the civic education teacher. She was known for being tough, loud, and impatient. She marched forward like a soldier and stood in front of the students. "This is the third time this boy is owing school fees," she shouted. "What kind of curse follows your family?" The students began to whisper. Some giggled, others just stared. Moses froze. His mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. "You," she pointed directly at him, "you are a shame to this school, a disgrace, always looking for pity. You should go and carry block instead of wearing uniform here." And before he could defend himself, she slapped him across the face, loud, public, humiliating. A sharp gasp went through the crowd, then the laughter began. Moses stood there, his face burning hot, but not from the slap alone, it was the embarrassment. The shame. The feeling of being less than everyone else. Some students looked at him with pity. Others mocked him, whispering things like charity case and school beggar. He didn't cry. He didn't speak. He just stood there, empty. Later that day, after everyone had gone to class, Moses walked slowly home. He didn't wait for the closing bell. He couldn't face his classmates. When he got home, he met his mother sitting on a small wooden stool outside. She was washing some clothes for the neighbor in exchange for 200 naira. He didn't greet her. He didn't smile. He just stood in front of her and said, "I'm not going back. I'd rather become a mechanic. I can't face them again, Mummy." She looked up at him, her hands still soaked with soapy water. For a moment she said nothing. Then she got up and placed her wet hands on his shoulders. "My son, I know it's hard," she whispered, "but if you drop out now, you're letting them win. Even if I have to clean the whole town with my bare hands, you must finish school. You hear me?" He looked away. He didn't respond. But inside something shifted. That night Moses couldn't sleep. He lay awake, staring at the old ceiling, listening to the rats moving above. He could still feel the slap on his face. The laughter of the students echoed in his mind. The voice of Mrs. Johnson calling him a disgrace kept repeating itself. He clenched his fists. Then he made a promise. One day they will remember my name, not as a failure, but as something greater. The next morning, his mother did what she promised. Before dawn, she tied a scarf over her head and left the house quietly. She walked through the quiet streets of the neighborhood, knocking on people's gates. "Please, do you need someone to sweep your compound?" She didn't mind the insults. She didn't care about the rejection. She was on a mission. That week she cleaned 6 different compounds. She made 2,000 naira. She didn't eat breakfast. She didn't complain. Every kobo was for Moses. When he came home from school, she gave him the money. "Take, go and pay part of your fees tomorrow. I'm still working on the rest." He stared at the money and said nothing. Then he hugged her tightly. No words, just a tight hug full of pain, gratitude, and promise. Back in school, Moses tried to focus on his studies. It wasn't easy. The whispers didn't stop. Some students looked at him with pity, others with disgust. One day, during break time, a girl named Naomi walked up to him and said, "I saw what happened. It wasn't right. But don't let that slap define you. You're smart. You can rise above this." It was the first kind word he had heard in days. He smiled faintly. "Thank you," he said. 2 weeks passed, and Moses was still owing fees. His mother had managed to raise only 2,200 naira from cleaning people's compounds. They were still short by another 2,000 naira. But time was running out. The school had given a deadline. All unpaid students would not be allowed to sit for the exams. Moses began to panic. He didn't want to miss his exams. He had been studying so hard, pushing himself to stay focused, even through the shame. He prayed every night for help. But then the unthinkable happened again. It was a Wednesday morning. During civic education, Mrs. Johnson entered the classroom with her usual loud steps. She walked to the front. "Before I start," she said, "let me ask, who here is still owing school fees?" Moses kept his head down. She scanned the class, eyes sharp, then said, "Moses, stand up." He froze. Slowly he stood. "So you're still owing?" she asked, raising her voice. "Your poor mother cannot pay ordinary 4,200 naira." The class went silent. Moses clenched his fist. Mrs. Johnson wasn't done. "Tell your mother that education is not for decoration. If she cannot pay, she should stop disgracing herself. What kind of woman raises a child and cannot afford small school fees?" Moses felt a tear drop down his cheek. He wiped it quickly, but another followed. Naomi, who sat beside him, was watching closely. Her jaw tightened. She was angry, very angry. Mrs. Johnson saw the tears and laughed, crying, "Better use those tears to wash your mother's dirty mop. Maybe someone will give you money out of pity." The bell rang soon after, but Moses didn't move. He stayed seated, head down, silent. After class, Naomi turned to him and said quietly, "Don't mind her. That woman is wicked." He didn't speak. That night, Naomi went home and sat with her parents. "Mummy, Daddy," she began, "I need money for some textbooks. They cost 2,400 naira. Without asking too many questions, her father handed her the money. "Make sure you buy the right books," he said. "Thank you, Daddy," she replied. But Naomi had no plans of buying any books. The next morning, she waited for Moses at the school gate. He looked surprised to see her there. "Here," she said, handing him the money. "What's this?" he asked. "Take it. It's for your fees. I lied to my parents that I needed textbooks. Please just take it." Moses took a step back, shaking his head. "Number, I can't. You lied to your parents for me. That's not nice." "I know," she said, "but I couldn't sleep last night. What that woman said yesterday, it broke something in me. I felt like I had to do something." "Naomi," he said, voice soft, "it's not right to lie. Your parents trust you. What if they find out?" "Then I'll deal with it," she replied. "But right now, what matters is that you stay in school. You're smart, Moses. Smarter than half the class combined. You deserve a chance." He looked at the money again. His hands trembled. "Thank you," he whispered. "I'll pay you back." "I promise I didn't give it for you to pay back," she replied. "Just promise me you'll not give up." He nodded slowly, eyes still wet. They walked into the school together. That day, Moses paid the remaining balance of his fees. The bursar looked surprised. "Ah, Moses, you finally paid. Good, go and collect your exam card." And for the first time in weeks, he smiled, a small, tired smile, but a real one. That afternoon, during lunch break, Naomi and Moses sat under the mango tree beside the school field. "Why did you really help me?" he asked her. She replied, "Because I've seen your strength. I've seen how you sit in the front, how you help others with homework, how you never complain." He nodded slowly. They said nothing more. But in that silence, something powerful was born. A friendship built on kindness and sacrifice. When Moses got home that evening, he met his mother cooking with firewood in their small kitchen outside. She had just returned from washing 3 compounds and looked tired. But her face lit up when she saw him. "My son, how was school today?" she asked. Moses dropped his bag and slowly brought out the receipt from his pocket. Grace turned sharply. Paid? How? He hesitated, then told her everything. How Naomi gave him 2,400 naira, how she got it by lying to her parents, and how she insisted he accept it. His mother's smile vanished. You allowed a girl to lie to her parents because of you. Moses, that's not a good character. Mummy, I didn't ask her, he replied. She did it by herself. I even told her not to. Then you should not have accepted the money, she said firmly. You know better. We don't build our future on lies, even small ones. Moses looked down. He didn't mean to upset her. He only wanted to write his exams. To escape poverty. To make her proud. I'm sorry, Mummy, he whispered. She sighed and pulled him close. I'm not angry because you want to succeed, my son. I'm angry because I raised you to do what is right, even when it's hard. Next time, we trust God and wait. Never exchange honesty for speed. He nodded slowly. The next day at school, the sun was hotter than usual. Everything felt heavy. The week of exams had started. Moses sat quietly at his desk in the class, reviewing his civic education notes. Then Mrs. Johnson walked in. Her eyes locked on Moses immediately. She walked straight to his desk. So you finally paid, she said mockingly. I heard someone gave you the money. You can deceive everyone, but you can't deceive me. Moses didn't reply. He just looked at his book. You think passing exams will make you successful, she continued louder now. Let me tell you something. You will never make it in life. You hear me? Never. You will become a bus conductor or a bricklayer. That's where boys like you end up. Poor, useless, forgotten. Moses stood up slowly. You are not my God. Mrs. Johnson's eyes widened. What did you say? You are not my God, he repeated. You don't decide my future. I will become a doctor. Not just any doctor, a surgeon, a very popular one. The world will hear of me. I'll travel, build hospitals, help people. And when I'm rich, I'll make sure to thank everyone who believed in me. Mrs. Johnson laughed. Over my dead body, she said. You? Surgeon? Never. Then prepare to be shocked, he said, sitting back down. Nobody had ever spoken to Mrs. Johnson like that, but Moses wasn't rude. He was bold, tired, and ready to fight for his future. After school, Naomi rushed to him. I heard everything. You were brave. I didn't plan it, he said, breathing fast. I've had enough. You said the truth, Naomi replied. Some people need to be told they're not God. They both laughed a little, then went their separate ways. But deep inside, Moses felt something new that day, power. That night at home, he told his mother what happened. She was quiet for a long time, then she smiled. Well said, she is not your God, but remember the best way to answer people like her is not with anger, it's with success. The exams had ended. Moses did his best. He answered every question with focus and courage. He didn't just want to pass, he wanted to prove something to himself, to his mother, and to the world. At home things were still hard. His mother, Grace, continued her daily routine of cleaning people's houses just to keep food on the table. Sometimes she returned home with body aches and no payment. Yet she never gave up. Her strength gave Moses strength. One hot afternoon, Grace decided to go to the market to buy some vegetables. She had saved 300 naira from washing a rich woman's veranda. As she walked through a quiet street near the school, she saw someone approaching from the opposite direction. It was Mrs. Johnson, the same woman who had insulted her son, the same woman who said she was a disgrace, the same woman who humiliated her family for being poor. Grace stopped walking. Mrs. Johnson, holding a black handbag, tried to act like she didn't see her. But Grace had had enough. She walked straight up to her. Good afternoon, she said coldly. Mrs. Johnson mumbled. Why have you been insulting my son? Grace asked, voice calm but firm. What did he do to deserve your wickedness? Mrs. Johnson frowned. Look, woman, I don't have time for your drama. If you cannot pay school fees, then stay at home. Don't disturb. Before Mrs. Johnson could finish the sentence, Grace slapped her, right on the road. Then she grabbed her by the wrapper and said, I kept quiet when you slapped my son in front of the whole school. I kept quiet when you mocked me for being poor. But today, you will explain yourself. Mrs. Johnson tried to fight back, But Grace was too fast. Years of cleaning and hard work had made her strong. She gave her 3 more slaps, hot and loud, one for every time Mrs. Johnson had humiliated her son. Some women nearby stopped and stared. One of them shouted, "Is that not the civic teacher?" "Ehen, good for her." Another one laughed. Wicked woman finally met her match. Mrs. Johnson tried to escape, but her wig fell off as she stumbled. Grace picked it up and threw it on the floor. "Next time you open your mouth to insult someone's child, remember today," she shouted. Mrs. Johnson, now looking completely confused and embarrassed, picked up her wig and walked away quickly. The women who had gathered began to laugh louder. "Madam, well done," one said. "You fought for your son." "That slap was for all the children she has insulted," another added. Grace didn't smile. She just adjusted her scarf, picked up her shopping basket, and walked home silently. But inside, her heart was burning. "Nobody messes with my child and walks free," she whispered to herself. When Moses got home that evening, he saw his mother washing clothes outside. "Mummy, you look tired. Are you okay?" he asked. She smiled. "I'm fine, my son." "You sure?" "Yes. But if anyone ever troubles you again, tell me immediately. Do you understand?" He nodded. He didn't know what had happened on the street that afternoon. But the next day at school, he found out. As soon as Moses entered the class, students started whispering. "Did you hear what happened yesterday? Mrs. Johnson was beaten in public. They said it was Moses's mother." Naomi turned to him, eyes wide. "Moses, is it true? Your mum beat Mrs. Johnson?" He blinked. "What?" Just then, Mrs. Johnson entered the classroom. Her face looked different. No makeup, no loud voice. She didn't even look around. She walked slowly to the front and sat down. Then she said quietly, "Open your books." For the first time ever, Mrs. Johnson taught without shouting, without insults, without pride. Moses sat in silence, still shocked. Naomi leaned toward him and whispered, "Your mum is a hero." 15 years had passed. The skinny, ashamed boy who was once slapped in front of his school had become a man the world respected. Moses was now doctor. Moses Eremosele, one of the most celebrated surgeons in the country. He had traveled the world, studied in Canada, returned to Nigeria, and opened 2 specialist hospitals. His name appeared in newspapers, on medical panels, and in award shows. People called him the Miracle Hands. But the greatest joy of his life wasn't the fame or the wealth. It was Naomi. Yes, the same Naomi who once gave him 2,400 naira to pay his school fees. She stood by him when he had nothing. Now she stood beside him in a white dress as his fiancée. Their wedding was just a few months away. His mother, Grace, was now living like a queen. Her son had bought her a house, a car, and even opened a small business for her to manage. She no longer cleaned compounds. Instead, she traveled and told women in her church how God lifted her through her son. One afternoon, while Moses was in his office reviewing patient reports, the hospital secretary entered. "Doctor," she said, "there's an emergency case coming from Queen's Clinic. It's serious. The patient was referred here because the surgery is risky. They say it's a 50-50 chance." Moses nodded. "Prepare the surgical team. What's the name of the patient?" The secretary checked her file. "Mrs. Rose Johnson." The name stopped Moses's heart for a moment. He looked up slowly. "Can I see the file?" She handed it over. Age, 63. Condition, complicated abdominal tumor. Status, very weak. Referral note, only doctor. Moses Eremosele is qualified to handle this procedure. Moses sat back in his chair. Mrs. Johnson, his old civic teacher, the one who slapped him, the one who said his mother was a disgrace, the one who laughed at his tears. Now lying helpless, her life in his hands. He didn't say a word until the emergency team wheeled her into the hospital. Moses was walking past the surgical bay when he saw her. She looked older, very weak, pale. Her face was swollen from stress and pain. She didn't recognize him. He walked into the room quietly. "Good afternoon, Ma," he said gently. She turned her head slightly. "Doctor, please help me. They say I might not make it." "You don't remember me, do you?" he asked. She looked again, trying to place the face. He took a deep breath and said, "I'm Moses. The boy you slapped in front of the whole school." The one you said would become a bus conductor. The one you mocked because his mother couldn't pay 4,200 naira. Her eyes widened. Moses! Oh my God! My son! Please! I'm sorry. She began to cry softly. I didn't know it was you. Please forgive me. Don't let me die. Moses stood quietly for a while. You said I would never make it. But today I am the only one who can save your life. She held his hand, crying now. Please, my son, I was wicked. Don't pay me back with evil. Moses slowly removed her hand from his. I'm calling one of my colleagues. He's good too. He will handle your surgery. He turned and walked out of the room. Later that evening, her daughter rushed into the hospital. She had just arrived from Lagos after getting the call. She entered her mother's room and found her crying. Mummy, what's wrong? It's him, she whispered. The doctor, he's Moses, the boy I disgraced many years ago. Her daughter's eyes widened. She didn't wait. She ran to the doctor's office. Moses was sitting at his desk, staring at her file. She knocked gently. Come in, he said. She opened the door, her eyes red with tears. Dr. Moses, please, I'm begging you, don't let my mother die. I know what she did was wrong, but she's sorry. Please, don't walk away. Moses looked at her, silent. Give me a few minutes to think, he said quietly. She nodded, bowed, and walked out. Moses sat back. He stared at the wall, deep in thought. Then he picked up his phone and called the one person who always had the right words, his mother. Grace picked up on the third ring. My son, how's work today? Mummy, do you remember Mrs. Johnson, the teacher who slapped me? She replied. How can I forget? She's sick, Mum. She needs surgery. It's serious, and I'm the only one who can do it. There was a pause. So, what will you do? She asked softly. I told her I would send my colleague. Moses, his mother said gently, don't pay evil with evil. You are better than that woman now. Save her life. Do it for me. Moses didn't respond at first. Then he said quietly, Okay, Mum, I will. The next morning, the surgery took place. It lasted 6 hours. It was difficult, but Moses gave it his best. When it was done, he walked out of the theater, removed his gloves, and breathed deeply. She would live. 3 days later, Mrs. Johnson opened her eyes. Her daughter was sitting beside her, smiling. Mummy, the surgery was a success. You're going to be fine. Tears rolled down her face. Later that evening, Moses came to see her. Thank you, she whispered. I don't deserve it, but thank you. God bless you, my son. Moses looked at her and replied, I didn't do it for you. I did it for the woman who cleaned compounds so I could go to school. And I did it for myself, to prove that pain can become power. She cried. I'm sorry. I forgave you a long time ago, he said, but I needed you to know that words matter. What you say to a child can bless or destroy. Then he stood up and walked away. 2 weeks after the surgery, Moses had returned to his normal routine. Everything seemed perfect. Then one evening, while he was working late in his office, a nurse walked in with a white envelope. Dr. Moses, this came for you. He opened it and found a neatly written invitation. Dear Doctor, Moses, you saved my life, and I am grateful. Please honor me with your presence at my house on Sunday at 3 p.m. I have something important to share. Rose Johnson. Moses sighed. He didn't want to go. Too many memories, too much pain. But when he told Naomi about it later that night, she looked at him and said gently, She has changed. She asked for forgiveness. Maybe she just wants to thank you again. Don't carry the past forever. It doesn't matter. He nodded slowly. Okay, I'll go. That Sunday at exactly 3 p.m., Moses arrived at Mrs. Johnson's home. It was a modest house in a quiet neighborhood. She opened the door and welcomed him with smiles. My son, she said, thank you for coming. He entered, looked around, and sat on the small couch in her parlor. They talked for a few minutes. She served him a glass of fruit juice. He took a few sips while she talked about how she was recovering, how her daughter Lizzie had been helping her, and how she regretted everything she did in the past. Moses just nodded quietly. Then suddenly, Mrs. Johnson stood and said, I want to repay you. He frowned. "Ma, I've told you. You don't owe me anything. I've moved on." She shook her head. "I insist. You saved my life. I want to give you something you'll never forget." He looked confused. "Please, no need. I will give you my daughter," she interrupted. "Lizzie, for free." Moses froze. "What? She's beautiful. She's loyal. She can be your wife. I don't mind." "But I'm getting married to Naomi in 2 months," he said sharply. "I love her. We've been together for years." Mrs. Johnson shrugged. "It doesn't matter. You're a successful man. You can handle 2 women. Don't you know some men have 3 wives?" Moses stood up. "Ma, with all due respect, this is wrong. I did not save your life because I wanted anything in return. Definitely not your daughter." She walked closer. "You don't have to answer now. Just relax. Think about it." Suddenly, Moses began to feel dizzy. His legs felt weak. His head started spinning. His vision became blurry. What's happening to me?" he whispered. Everything went black. When he woke up, it was already night. He found himself lying on a strange bed in a room with dim light. As his eyes adjusted, he turned and froze. Lizzie was lying next to him. Moses jumped up from the bed, confused and angry. "What is this? What did you do to me?" Lizzie didn't answer. He quickly grabbed his shoes and jacket and ran out of the house. He jumped into his car and sped off. His heart was pounding, his mind racing. What just happened? Did they drug me? Were they planning something? This is a trap. He got home around 11 p.m. As he walked into the house, Naomi was sitting in the living room, worried. She stood up quickly. "Moses, I've called you more than 20 times. Where have you been?" He hesitated. I forgot to charge my phone. I was helping another patient after visiting Mrs. Johnson. I didn't know it was this late." Naomi looked into his eyes. "Are you sure?" "Yes." "I'm sorry, I should have told you." She hugged him. "I was so worried. Please don't do that again." He held her tight, but his heart felt heavy. He had just told a lie. The first real lie in their relationship. 1 month had passed since the strange and shameful night at Mrs. Johnson's house. Moses tried to bury the memory, telling himself it was a mistake, a bad dream that would fade away. He never spoke about it again, not even to Naomi. He poured himself into work and focused on preparing for their wedding. Naomi was full of joy. She had picked her wedding gown. The invitation cards were ready. The church hall was booked. Everything was falling into place, but trouble was just beginning. It was a quiet Tuesday morning. Moses was in his office, going through a patient's file, when his secretary knocked and said, "Doctor, someone is here to see you. She says it's personal." "Who?" he asked. "She said her name is Lizzie Johnson." His heart skipped. He closed the file, leaned back in his chair, and took a deep breath. "Send her in." Seconds later, Lizzie walked in. She sat down without greeting. Moses didn't even offer her a seat. He simply asked, "What do you want?" Lizzie placed her hand on her belly and smiled. "I'm pregnant." Moses blinked twice. "What?" "You heard me. I'm carrying your child." Moses stood up, voice rising. "Are you mad? Why are you and your useless mother paying me back with evil? You know my wedding is in a month. Why would you drug me?" Lizzie acted shocked. "Drug you? Who said anything about drugs? You were fine that night. You even smiled. You enjoyed it." "You're lying," Moses shouted. "I would never touch you. I never wanted you." "Well, now you have to take full responsibility," she said, still smiling, "or I'll tell your mother and your fiancé." Moses shook his head, hands clenched. "You're wicked. You're cheap. You and your mother are desperate. You think a child will tie me down?" "Never." Lizzie's smile faded. "Call me what you want," she said coldly, "but this child is yours, and the world will soon know." "Get out of my office," Moses roared. "Get out before I call security." She stood up slowly. "Remember, you have only 2 choices. Marry me or I ruin you." Then she walked out. Moses dropped into his chair, breathing heavily. His hands shook. His heart pounded. He felt like the walls were closing in on him. He covered his face with both hands and whispered, "Oh God, what have I done?" Later that evening, he drove to the beach alone. He sat on the sand, staring at the waves. He remembered the slap in school, the shame, the years of pain. He remembered how Naomi stood by him. how his mother believed in him when no one else did. And now, one night, one foolish mistake was about to destroy everything. He picked up his phone and looked at Naomi's number. He wanted to call, to confess, to beg. But his hands wouldn't move. Moses had been avoiding Lizzie for weeks. After the day she came to his office claiming she was pregnant, he refused to pick her calls. He blocked her number. He warned the hospital security not to allow her into the building. He wanted nothing to do with her or her wicked mother again. But Lizzie was not the type to give up easily. She was angry, furious that Moses wouldn't give her attention, furious that he was still planning to marry Naomi and pretend like nothing happened. So one quiet evening, she picked up her phone. The number was unknown. Naomi answered. "Hello?" There was silence for a moment, then Lizzie spoke, her voice sweet but full of poison. "Hi, Naomi. I'm sorry to disturb you. I just wanted to warn you, before you walk into a marriage built on lies." Naomi's face tightened. "Who is this?" "Let's just say, I'm someone who knows your fiancé very well." Naomi frowned. "If this is a joke, please stop." "It's not," Lizzie replied quickly. "I'm pregnant for Moses." Naomi froze. "What did you just say?" "I said I'm pregnant. 1 month. He didn't tell you, right? He's been avoiding me since it happened." "Who are you?" "Elizabeth Johnson, Mrs. Johnson's daughter. I'm sure you know her. His former teacher, the one he saved." Naomi went silent. Lizzie smiled and continued. "He said he loves me, that you were just someone who helped him when he was poor, that he wants to marry you out of pity." Naomi gripped her phone tighter. "He never said that," she said, her voice shaking. "He did. He even said since you two started dating, you've never gotten pregnant. But now look at me. I am." Naomi stood up slowly from where she was sitting. "You're lying." "Believe what you want," Lizzie said, "but ask him. Ask him who he truly loves. Ask him if he sees you as a woman or just as a helper from his past." Then Lizzie laughed quietly. "Anyway, I've done my part. The truth is out. Let's see what your perfect fiancé tells you now." She hung up. Naomi stood frozen in the middle of her room. She couldn't speak, couldn't move. Tears gathered in her eyes, but she blinked them away. She picked up her phone and called Moses. He didn't answer. She called again. Still no answer. Her chest felt tight. She dropped her phone, walked to the bathroom and splashed water on her face. But nothing could wash away the words she had just heard. Naomi was waiting for Moses at home. Her eyes were swollen from crying, but her face was full of anger. As soon as Moses walked in through the door, tired and unaware, she stood up and shouted, "So this is what you've been hiding from me?" Moses was confused. "What? Naomi, what's wrong?" "Don't pretend like you don't know. You got another woman pregnant, and not just any woman, Lizzie Johnson. Her mother is the same teacher who disgraced you and your mother years ago." Moses froze, his mouth slowly opened. "Wait, what did you just say?" "She called me, from an unknown number, and said she's pregnant for you. She said you told her you love her, that you're only marrying me out of pity because I was there when you were poor. She even described your mother to me. She said you told her I've never been pregnant for you after all these years." Moses held his head, shocked. "She said all that?" "Yes," Naomi snapped. "So tell me the truth, Moses. What really happened?" Moses took a deep breath, his heart beating fast. "Naomi, listen to me. I didn't want to go to that woman's house. I told you I didn't want to see her again, but you forced me. You said she had changed. You said I should forgive and go. You're the one that told me to go." Naomi looked stunned for a second, then sat down slowly. "What happened there?" she asked. "They drugged me," Moses said firmly. "I started feeling dizzy after taking the drink she gave me. The next thing I remember, I woke up and saw Lizzie beside me. I was shocked. I wore my clothes and ran away immediately." Naomi stared at him. "So you didn't touch her willingly?" "Never. Naomi, believe me. I would never betray you like that. That girl is lying. She's a gold digger. Her mother planned everything." "But why didn't you tell me before?" "Because I was scared. I didn't know how to explain it without losing you." He knelt before her. "Baby, please. I told Lizzie we must do a DNA test. I know that child is not mine. I didn't sleep with her. I was drugged." Naomi's breathing slowed. She still looked hurt, but her anger was slowly melting into confusion and pain. She said so many things on the phone, she wanted to break us. Of course, Moses said, because she knows you're the only one I love. She knows she can never take your place. He held her hands gently. Don't let this useless, ungrateful family come into your heart and destroy what we have. You're the only woman I want, the only one I've ever truly loved. Naomi blinked back tears. So what do we do now? We go for the DNA test. If the child is mine, I'll take responsibility. But I will never marry her, never. That's not even a question. Naomi nodded slowly. Okay, but if the child is yours, we have to face it together. Yes. But if it's not mine, I want them out of our lives forever. She leaned into his chest. I still love you, Moses. But my heart is tired. Then let me fight for it. I'll fix this, I promise. Moses' mum had just heard everything from Naomi. The phone call from Lizzie, the pregnancy claim, and the lies being spread to destroy her son's upcoming marriage. Grace was furious. She didn't wait. She picked up her phone and dialed Mrs. Johnson's number without even thinking twice. Mrs. Johnson answered. Hello? Grace wasted no time. You foolish woman, have you started your nonsense again? You and your miserable daughter want to destroy my son's life. Let me warn you for the last time, stay away from Moses. Mrs. Johnson was silent. You think I've forgotten how I beat the hell out of you years ago? I will do it again without shame. Don't make me come to your house and teach you another lesson. Please, don't insult me. Insult? I'm giving you warning. Tell your frustrated, useless daughter to stay far away from my son and his fiancée. You two are gold diggers. You want to reap where you didn't sow, but not in my family. Mrs. Johnson tried to speak, but Grace shouted louder, One more lie, one more step near my family, and I'll make sure the whole world hears how shameless you are. This is not the same Moses you insulted. He's a great man now, and we won't let your madness near him. Then she ended the call. No room for reply. Moses was in his office, sitting quietly, his heart heavy. The past few weeks had been like a dark cloud hanging over his head. Naomi was no longer smiling the same way. His mother was angry. Lizzie had turned his peaceful life upside down, and though he knew in his heart he had done nothing wrong, he still carried guilt for what had happened. Just as he leaned back in his chair, lost in thought, a man walked in, well-dressed, serious-looking, but nervous. Good afternoon, the man said respectfully. Moses looked up, surprised. Good afternoon. Can I help you? My name is Patrick, he began. I know this may come as a shock, but I came to tell you the truth. Moses sat up straight. What truth? Patrick paused, took a deep breath and said, I'm responsible for Lizzie's pregnancy. Moses froze. She told me I'm the one. I've known her for a while. I was her boyfriend. I even rented the apartment where she and her mother are staying. I was taking care of both of them. But I lost my job last month and everything changed. Moses stared at him in disbelief, not saying a word. Patrick continued, 2 days ago, I caught her with another man in our apartment. That's when I knew she was never with me out of love. She and her mother are just using people to fund their useless lifestyle. That's when I left. His voice became more serious. But what made me come here today is what I heard from her friend. She said Lizzie is planning to pin the pregnancy on you, that you're rich and respected. She said it's your name she wants because she wants to level up. And as a Christian, I couldn't keep quiet. I had to come and clear your name. Moses swallowed hard. He felt a strange mix of anger and relief in his chest. You're sure about everything you just said? He asked. I swear, that pregnancy is not yours. I am the father. But I've washed my hands off them completely. Moses was stunned. You just saved my life, he said with deep emotion in his voice. You don't know what you've done for me today. Patrick then started walking to the door, but Moses stopped him. Wait, he said, opening his drawer and pulling out a check. This is 5 million naira. I know you didn't come here for money, and I respect that. But I want to thank you. From the bottom of my heart. Please take it. Patrick's eyes widened. Sir, I didn't come here for this. I know, Moses replied. That's why you deserve it. Patrick nodded slowly and took the check. God bless you, Dr. Moses. Stay away from that family. After he left, Moses dropped to his knees and lifted his hands in tears. "Thank you, God," he whispered. "Thank you." That evening he went straight to Naomi's house. She opened the door slowly, unsure of what to expect. But when she saw his face, calm, at peace, she stepped back. "Naomi," he said, gently pulling her into a tight hug. "The child is not mine." She pulled back slightly and looked into his eyes. "What do you mean?" He explained everything, Patrick's visit, the full confession, how the whole pregnancy was one big lie meant to trap him. Naomi stood there quietly, tears slowly streaming down her cheeks. "So you were telling the truth all along," she whispered. "I was," he replied, "but now we have proof. And peace." She rested her head on his chest. Moses held her close and said, "Let's get married, Naomi. Let's move on. We've cried enough." And for the first time in a long while, they both smiled. 2 weeks later, Moses and Naomi got married. The wedding was peaceful and full of joy. His mother danced happily, and everyone could see how much they truly loved each other. They moved on with their lives, leaving the past behind. No more drama, no more lies. Just peace, love, and happiness. Dear viewers, what lessons did you take away from this dramatic tale? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the story, give us a thumbs up, share it with friends, and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest updates. Thanks for watching and stay blessed.